Hey guys, how's it going? I decided to come to Brighton for a couple of days. I used to live here back before I became a photographer, and I knew that you could get some interesting shots in the lanes and on the pier. Anyway, carry on watching because I'm going to reveal my shooting settings later in the video. I brought both of my cameras and I'm currently shooting with the 40mm Ricoh GRIII X, and I also have a quarter Pro mist filter on the lens, which adds a soft glow and a film-like halation to the light sources. I wasn't following this person, I was actually headed in this direction. Every time I come to Brighton, it changes a lot. There never used to be a Burger King on the seafront. Anyway, I really liked how these lights kind of worked as a leading line that trailed down the road. One of the easiest things that you can do as a night street photographer is that if you see somebody underneath a light, take a shot. I really liked how dark and ominous the surroundings to this lit up walkway was. So we're coming up to the lanes, definitely the most quaint and beautiful part of Brighton in my opinion. The thinking behind the next couple of shots is purely the fact that this guy was standing under these lights and the illuminated restaurant sign. You wouldn't get this kind of glow without the mist filter. I waited for this person to walk down the street. I can't imagine that there's any town in England with more pubs than Brighton. If you like drinking, then this is the place to be. Alleyways can also be really atmospheric without people in them. I love the detail on the wall here and the illumination from the windows on the right. Right, we are now heading to the other lanes, the North Lanes. I don't think I'd be a street photographer if mobile phones weren't invented. took this next photo really quick. I caught this guy walking under these bright lights. This is one of my favourite photos of the evening. If someone's on the phone or they're smoking, I take the shot. And if they're standing outside an interestingly lit up window, you should definitely snap the image. Always look for people in interesting colours. And the colour red is probably the best. This next shot is another of my favourites. I've never seen a shop logo illuminated on the pavement before. Once again, bright lights are a night street photographer's best friend. This used to be my stomping ground. It brings back a lot of memories. Don't forget, to be a good night street photographer, you need smoking, lights and phones. I couldn't find anything further along, so I decided to head back the way I came. You have to do a lot of walking around with night street photography, so make sure you're warm, you're safe, and the shoes are up for the job. Space. This actually is my favourite shot of the night. It's understated and it's nicely framed. Sometimes you get the chance to take a couple of shots, so work the composition from different perspectives and see what works for you. I I much preferred the second shot as the light and the tones are more subtle. So for the night, I shot in aperture priority, keeping my aperture at a constant f2.8. I also used auto ISO with a minimum shutter speed of 1/100 seconds, and my ISO range was 800 to 6400. My autofocus was auto area autofocus with the center mode. I've tested out all of the Ricoh's focus modes, and this one definitely works for me. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you could please give this a like and subscribe for more photo walks and tutorials coming your way. Finally, the camera was in multi-segment metering mode and auto white balance. I decided to head back to the other lanes for a quick tour before finishing. As I keep on saying, street photography doesn't have to include people. It doesn't matter that these streets are pretty. For atmospheric night photography, it's all about the street and shop lights. I'm finding it a lot easier to frame in portrait orientation to reduce clutter on the edges of the frame that would only get cropped out in post. And this was the last shot I took before I went off for dinner at a Japanese restaurant that was literally across the road. That's going to do it, guys. If you made it this far, then thank you very much. I'd love to know your thoughts, or if you have any questions, please drop us a comment below. There are many more photos and footage from Brighton that I shot, so stay tuned for more photography videos coming up soon. Now watch this video here to see how I edit some of my photos for that film look in Enhancer. Go forth and create.